If you ever hear a soft ankle bell ring at exactly 3:17 a.m., do not open your eyes. That's what the note said, written in shaky blue ink on the back of a faded family photograph. When Daniel Reed found it taped inside a box of old wedding decorations in his garage in Edison, New Jersey, he laughed at first. He thought it was some strange cultural superstition left over from his wife's family. Something dramatic, something old. He stopped laughing 3 nights later. Daniel had married Asha Patel 8 years earlier in Chicago. She was born in Illinois, raised between American suburbia and the quiet traditions of her Gujarati parents. She spoke perfect Midwestern English, loved true crime podcasts, and believed in science. At least, that's what Daniel always thought. But when her grandmother died in a small village outside Vadodara in India, everything shifted. Asha flew back alone for the funeral. Daniel couldn't get time off work. She was gone for 10 days. When she returned, she was different in ways too subtle to explain. Quieter, more distracted. She began locking the bedroom door at night, something she had never done before. And she bought a small brass bell from an Indian grocery store in Iceland and hung it beside their bed. "It's just comforting," she told him when he asked. Comforting from what? She never said. 3 weeks after her return, Daniel woke up at 3:17 a.m. to the faint sound of metal brushing metal, like a tiny bell chiming once, then stopping. He assumed it was the heater expanding. Old houses make noise. He rolled over. Asha was sitting upright in bed, staring at the door. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. She didn't answer. Her eyes were open, but she wasn't blinking. The sound came again, a delicate, distant chime, not from the bell by their bed, from somewhere else in the house. Then silence. In the morning, Asha claimed she didn't remember sitting up. She said she must have been dreaming. The next night, it happened again. 17 a.m. One chime. Long pause. Another chime. Daniel got up this time. He checked the hallway, the living room, the kitchen. Nothing was out of place. The house was silent except for the refrigerator humming. But as he turned back toward the stairs, he felt it. That heavy sensation of being watched. Not from in front of him, from behind. He didn't look. He didn't know why. Some instinct told him not to. Back in bed, Asha was lying down, but her face was turned toward the closet. Her lips were moving slightly. "What are you saying?" he asked. She stopped. "Nothing," she said. The third night, Daniel set his phone to record audio. At 3:17 a.m., the bell rang 3 times, not delicate this time. Louder, closer. Daniel's eyes snapped open. The brass bell beside their bed was swaying gently, though no air moved in the room. Asha was whispering clearly now. "He came with me. I told you not to come." Daniel reached for her shoulder. Her skin was ice cold. The next morning, he listened to the recording. At 3:17, the bell chimed. Then came Asha's voice, and another voice. Low, male, breathing words in a language Daniel didn't understand. The tone wasn't angry, it was patient, waiting. Daniel confronted her that evening. He played the audio. She went pale. "It's not possible," she whispered. He demanded the truth. That's when she told him about the house in India. Her grandmother's village home was over 100 years old, built with dark teak wood and narrow hallways. During the funeral rituals, Asha had stayed alone one night to keep vigil beside her grandmother's body, as tradition required. The elders warned her not to wander after midnight. The back courtyard, they said, had a history. Asha didn't believe in village stories. She stepped outside at around 3 a.m. to get air. That's when she heard the anklet, a single metallic chime. She thought it was a goat moving nearby. But then she saw something at the far end of the courtyard, a shape, tall, still. Watching her, it wore white, its feet didn't touch the ground, and around its ankle was a thin silver chain with tiny bells. She ran back inside and locked the door. The sound followed her. 3 slow chimes, then silence. Her grandmother's sister later told her the story of a man who had died in that house decades earlier, a jealous husband who believed his wife was unfaithful. He killed her in the courtyard at exactly 3:17 a.m. after hearing her anklet as she tried to run. They say his spirit attaches itself to women who hear the bells and respond. Asha swore she never responded, but she admitted something else. On the final night before leaving India, she heard the anklet again, and in fear she whispered, "Please don't follow me." Daniel stared at her. "And you think that's what this is?" She nodded slowly. He didn't believe in spirits. He believed in trauma, in stress, in suggestion. He told her they'd see a therapist. But that night at 3:17, the bell didn't just ring. It rang from inside the closet. Daniel sat up instantly. The closet door was slightly open. He grabbed a flashlight and walked toward it. "Asha, stay here." He opened the door fully. Nothing inside but clothes. Then the light flickered, and from behind him, 3 clear metallic chimes echoed. He turned. Asha was standing at the foot of the bed, her head tilted unnaturally to the side. Her voice was layered. "You answered." Daniel froze. Her eyes weren't on him. They were fixed slightly above his shoulder. He felt breath on his neck, cold, slow, close. The bell rang once more. Then everything went dark. When Daniel woke up, he was on the floor. The bedroom light was on. Asha was unconscious on the bed. There were faint, wet footprints leading from the closet to the window, but they stopped halfway across the wall, as if something had walked upward and disappeared into the ceiling. Daniel called a priest from the local Hindu temple in Robbinsville. The priest listened carefully. He didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss it. He asked one question. "Has she answered the bells since returning?" Daniel remembered that first night, when Asha had whispered in her sleep, "Yes." The priest's face hardened. There is a pattern. He comes when acknowledged. He waits to be invited. The rule was simple. At 3:17 a.m., if the bells ring, no one must speak, no one must move, and no one must look toward the sound. Acknowledgement strengthens attachment. They performed a cleansing ritual in the house. Incense, mantras, sacred water. For 2 nights, nothing happened. On the 3rd night, at 3:17, the bell rang again, but this time it rang only once and stopped. Daniel felt relief until he realized something. The brass bell beside their bed was gone. They searched the house. It wasn't anywhere. That evening, Daniel checked the garage again, going through old boxes. That's when he found the photograph. A black and white image from India, decades old. In the background of the courtyard stood a tall man in white, his face blurred. Around his ankle, a silver chain with tiny bells. Taped behind it was the note. "If you ever hear a soft ankle bell ring at exactly 3:17 a.m., do not open your eyes." Daniel's hands trembled. That night, they stayed awake deliberately, watching the clock. 16, 3, 17, silence. 18, Daniel exhaled. Asha smiled weakly. Then they heard it. Not from the house, from outside. On the driveway gravel, one metallic chime, then another. Slow footsteps circling the house. The sound moved along the walls, around the windows, stopping beneath their bedroom. Daniel's phone buzzed with a notification. The security camera detected motion. He opened the app. The driveway camera showed nothing, but the porch camera showed the brass bell hanging from the ceiling fan outside, swaying by itself. 3 chimes. Asha's voice behind him was barely audible. "He found us." The camera feed glitched. For one frame, just one, a tall white shape stood behind the bell, its head tilted, looking directly into the camera. The next morning, the bell was gone again, and the footprints in the gravel led only toward the house, not away. Daniel finally understood something he had been denying. This wasn't about possession, it was about proximity. The spirit wasn't inside Asha. It was orbiting her, following, waiting for her to respond again. They decided to move. New state, new house, fresh start, Seattle, rain, distance, ocean air. For a month, there were no bells, no 317 awakenings. Asha began to relax. Daniel allowed himself to believe it was over until the night he woke up at 3:16. No sound, just instinct. He stared at the dark ceiling. 17. Silence. He smiled faintly. Then he heard it. Not a bell, a whisper, right beside his ear. You looked? Daniel realized something with a wave of cold dread. He had opened his eyes at 3:17. The rule wasn't about sound, it was about awareness. The bell had never been the trigger, it was the test. The following nights, there were no chimes, no whispers, nothing visible. But Asha began sleepwalking, standing at windows, facing corners, murmuring in Gujarati. Daniel installed cameras in every room. Reviewing footage the next morning, he saw her stand at 3:17 each night, perfectly still for exactly 1 minute, then lie back down. On the 7th night in Seattle, Daniel forced himself to stay awake but keep his eyes closed. At 3:17, he felt the mattress dip slightly, as if someone had sat beside him. He didn't move, he didn't breathe deeply, he didn't acknowledge it. After 60 seconds, the weight lifted. No bells, no whispers. In the morning, Asha told him she had dreamed of the courtyard, but this time, she wasn't alone. Daniel was standing there with her, and he was the one wearing the anklet. 3 days later, Daniel found a thin silver chain in his sock drawer, tiny bells attached, cold to the touch. That night, at exactly 3:17 a.m., the sound didn't come from outside. It came from him. A faint metallic chime as he shifted in bed. Asha's eyes opened slowly, and for the first time since India, she smiled. Not in relief, in recognition. Some patterns don't break, they transfer. And somewhere, in a quiet American suburb, thousands of miles from a forgotten courtyard in India, a patient spirit no longer needed to follow.